So you're thinking about buying a home in Douglas County. Well, there are things that I want you to be aware of before you purchase. I'm Shahida Hill, your Douglas County realtor. So the number one thing I want you, and they're in no particular order, I want you to be careful of homes that are owned by LLCs. So typically investors, a lot of homes, particularly bought by investors between 2019 and 2022, I'm seeing a lot of them pop up on the market. I was working with clients that really wanted to stay in the 250 or so range, and we looked at about 40 houses, and I had another client that needed to stay in the very even lower 200,000s. So I saw a lot of investor-owned properties, primarily owned by an LLC. That's how they, deal with their liability. But what I was finding in these homes that they rehab them very quickly, they had a lot of issues, and the communication wasn't that good. So a lot of times they won't give you any disclosures, even though these used to be rental properties. So the disclosures basically, just buyer beware. They're not going to tell you, anything that they fixed while the renter was there, that sort of thing. And a lot of them are asking not to, like, if you're doing an FHA loan, they may do FHA repairs, but they're not willing to do much more than that. And you'll find that some of them have the, old roofs. It's just not, well kept, but they're looking to get out of the market and flip them because they've made their profit pretty much over the pandemic. So be super cautious if you're interested in a home. And a lot of these homes were built prior to 1978. So there's some of our older ranch homes. Douglas County has a lot of older communities. So you want to make sure that you're really getting an experienced inspector. If you do choose to buy one of these homes, make sure you're getting a very experienced inspector that does a very thorough inspection of the home. You may even need to bring in specialists like roofers, plumbers, foundation specialists. Just be very cautious of those homes if you plan on getting them. I just feel like there's a lot of them in Douglas County right now for sale. Number 2, homes on main roads. Douglas County is growing very quickly. For example, Lee Road is expanding from, I think it was just 2 lanes for a very long time, and now it's going to be a 4-lane road, which is great for traffic. So there's a lot more traffic in Douglas County, and there's a lot of congestion in that area. So when that construction is finished, it's going to really be a good thing for a lot of the residents of that area. However, there were a lot of homeowners that also lived off of Lee Road, and through probably eminent domain, they had to take some of their property to expand the road. So what you'll see when you're driving down that road is you'll see residents on either side where they used to have probably a lot of space between the main road and their home. Now it's a lot less space between the main road and their home. And imagine the traffic, the noise, all of that. So as Douglas County grows, you need to be very mindful of buying a house on any of these roads that, even though they may be 2-lane right now, the future of Douglas County may have some expansion. So you don't want to be in a location that could potentially expand in the future, because that can impact your property value. And again, traffic is growing. They're building a lot of, especially in District 2, District 1, they're building a lot of apartments. They're building, some more townhomes. So with that higher density of a population, then you are going to see the need for them to expand roads. There was a splosh, like they wanted to add more to the taxes to pay a transportation splosh, and it was on the ballot at the last election. It did not pass because I think people want, the Board of Commissioners to slow down on some of the things that they're doing. Plus, they didn't want to pay the extra fees, in Douglas County. But the school splosh did pass because everybody, generally speaking, is wanting to invest in schools, but the transportation splosh did not pass. So just be very mindful again of where you're moving and the potential growth in some of these areas. Number 3, homes that have a septic tank that you haven't had professionally inspected. So any home, And there are a lot of homes in Douglas County on a septic tank. If they were built before a certain year, or if they're on a lot of acreage, even if it's a new construction home and it's built on acreage, it's going to be on a septic tank. So typically what I always do with homes on a septic tank, I will get the septic tank drawing ahead of time so you know exactly where it is. You'll see in Douglas County there are a lot of above ground pools because a lot of homes have septic tanks and it's difficult for you to do an in-ground pool there, right? So I like my clients to know where the septic tank is located just in case they had any plans for certain things in their yard. So I get that septic tank drawing, and I always require a septic clearance letter. So we know that that septic tank at the time of purchase at least is in good working condition. And typically that requires a septic company to pump the septic tank. In general, you should get your septic tank pumped every 2 years or so. So at the time of inspection, we're also going to ask the seller to pump it. If you're buying on acreage, or if you're buying an older home, typically, and some of our newer subdivisions, you're not going to find that they're on septic tank, but you will find some of our older homes and homes on land on septic. You want a septic clearance letter. And you also want to make sure that septic is pumped, and you want to know the location of the septic tank. So don't buy a home unless you do all of those things in Douglas County. Number 4, I want you to, I just did a school video recently, like the best schools, and I do them typically every year, best schools in Douglas County. So if you're moving to an area because of the school, again, we are growing. I know I've been to superintendent meetings and that sort of thing. They said there's not going to be redistricting. However, or anytime soon, I guess. However, I believe down the road, there's going to have to be some redistricting because as the population grows in some of these areas, they are planning on building some new schools, but I don't see how, you don't redistrict. So you want to be mindful of where your home that you're buying is located and what's the potential of it being moved to another, school. So again, you want to be as close. If you are dead set on going to a particular school in the county, I would make sure I'm in a close proximity to that school. Because if you're like, the school is here and you're on like the edge of another school, and on the Board of Education website, it has the district map showing where the school areas are, the school zones. And if you're kind of on the edge or very close to another school area, there could be a chance that you're going to be redistricted down the line. And if your children are really young, then that may impact you later. There's no way to tell, of course. I just want you to be mindful of that. I kind of fall in that area where only like our subdivision is going to one particular school. So I can see perhaps in the future that we may be rezoned to another school that may actually be closer to us than where we go to school now. So just something to be mindful of. Lastly, I want you not to buy a house in Douglas County where your home is very close to power lines and, your home is going to stay on the market much longer, or you're going to have to sell it at a discount. Some of the times that we were looking at some of these homes, in the back of the home, typically, they were by power lines. And we have, subdivisions that, some new construction subdivisions in Douglas County and some other subdivisions in Douglas County where the power lines are so large, they're so like close to your home. I wouldn't buy a house that's close to a power line. Your property value is not going to be as high. I don't care how nice the home is inside. A lot of people do not want to be that close to these power lines. So you really need to evaluate that for long-term resale value. And I just wouldn't buy a house in Douglas County that's that close to a power line. All right, so I hope this was helpful. If you need any help moving to Douglas County, definitely contact me. I'm Shahida Hill. All of my information is in the description of this video. Thank you for watching.